Mark sat alone in the long dining hall of the Star Station, enjoying the rare, quiet moment between repair shifts. The place was usually loud with alien voices, but right now only the soft hum of engines echoed around him. He opened his small metal lunchbox and took out a single sausage. Simple human food, nothing special. But out here in deep space, even a small warm meal felt comforting. He smiled to himself, took a slow bite, and let the familiar taste relax his tired mind. If you enjoy these kinds of sci-fi story videos, do consider subscribing to the channel. It helps a lot and keeps the journey going. Just as Mark took another bite, the door of the hall slid open. Bright white lights reflected off smooth blue skin as Zyra walked in, tall, elegant, and always impossibly confident. Her short black hair swayed sharply as she noticed him. She stared at the sausage. Then she stared at Mark. Then back at the sausage. Her lips slowly curled into a teasing smile. "Oh no," Mark whispered to himself. Zyra walked toward him with long, graceful steps, her boots tapping on the floor like she owned the entire station. She stopped right in front of Mark's table and leaned down slightly, her glowing eyes locked onto the tiny human snack in his hand. "Is that what humans eat?" she said, loud enough for her voice to echo. Mark swallowed. Yes. It's food." Zyra blinked dramatically. "Food? That's small." Then she laughed, a bright, ringing sound that bounced around the hall. Mark rubbed his forehead. "It's just a normal sausage, Zyra." "Normal?" She tilted her head and pretended to look confused. "Mark, it looks like something a child would play with, not something an adult would eat." Mark sighed. "Can't I eat in peace today?" Zyra smirked. "Not when you bring that to the dining hall." She crossed her arms, acting like she had won some silent battle. Other aliens nearby looked over with curious eyes, whispering softly. Zyra loved attention, and she got plenty of it. Mark placed the sausage back in his box. "Look, it's just a snack. You don't have to make fun of everything I eat." Zyra tapped her chin. "Maybe, but it is fun." Mark tried to ignore her, but Zyra leaned even closer until her face was only inches away. "So tell me, human," she said, "does this sausage actually taste good? Or do humans just pretend?" Mark laughed once, annoyed, but also a bit amused. "You tell me, Zyra. Why don't you try one?" Her eyebrows rose. She didn't expect him to say that. "Oh," she placed a hand on her hip. "You want me to eat this tiny human stick food?" Mark shrugged. "Only way to know." Zyra looked around dramatically, letting every nearby alien see her exaggerated disbelief. She loved an audience. The room grew quiet as everyone waited to see what she would do. Zyra reached forward, slowly, confidently, and picked up the sausage between two fingers like it was some strange artifact. She lifted it up, sniffed it lightly, and wrinkled her nose. "It smells spicy," she muttered. "That's because it is spicy," Mark said. "Humans and their aggressive flavors," Zyra said under her breath. Then her smirk returned. "Fine, I will show you how brave an Aravan girl can be." Without warning, she popped the sausage into her mouth. Mark sat back. Maybe don't eat the whole." Too late. Zyra chewed twice, then froze. Completely froze. Her glowing eyes widened like someone had just switched on a spotlight inside her head. Mark frowned. "Zyra, you okay?" Zyra swallowed hard, her throat moving slowly, as if the bite itself was heavy. Her breathing changed. Her shoulders stiffened. She placed both hands on the table to steady herself. A small tremor passed through her fingers. "Mark," she whispered. Mark stood up. "What's happening?" Zyra pressed a hand to her stomach and took a shaky breath. What is in this food of yours?" "It's just a sausage. Meat, salt, oil, a little pepper." Zyra's eyes snapped open wider at the last word. "Pepper?" "Yes, pepper. A human spice." "What?" Zyra stepped back suddenly, bumping into a chair. She gripped her stomach tighter, her expression twisting between shock and confusion. "Mark, my species reacts strongly to certain chemicals. If this is pepper," she swallowed painfully, "then my energy core might—" Her voice broke off as a faint glow began running under her skin, spreading like blue fire beneath the surface. The nearby aliens gasped. Mark stared in disbelief. Zyra, that shouldn't happen. It's just normal human food. Zyra shook her head fiercely. Not for me. Not for Erevin's. It is too strong. She winced as another wave of energy surged through her, lighting her eyes even brighter. The lights above them flickered, as if something in the station felt her reaction. Mark stepped forward, trying to help. Zyra breathed. Stay calm. She looked up at him with panic in her glowing eyes. Mark, something is happening inside me. A soft pulse of blue energy rippled outward from her body, making every table tremble. Zyra gasped. Mark stared, and the entire hall fell silent. As Zyra whispered the final trembling words, "Your sausage did something to me." Zyra's breathing grew louder in the silent hall, each breath sharper than the last. The blue glow under her skin pulsed again, brighter this time, almost like a heartbeat that did not belong to her. Mark slowly raised his hands, unsure whether to move closer or take a step back. But Zyra didn't let him choose. She reached out and grabbed his wrist tightly. Her hand was hot, far too hot for her species. A strange vibration hummed through her fingers, almost like an engine warming up. Mark, something is wrong, she said, her voice shaking. I feel pressure inside, like energy trying to escape. Mark swallowed hard, looking around the hall. Most aliens had backed away, trying to hide behind furniture. A few watched with wide eyes, whispering to each other in panic. Zyra's grip tightened. Don't let go. I'm not, Mark said softly. But we need to move. You shouldn't stay here if your power is unstable. Zyra nodded weakly, but the glow on her arms suddenly shot upward, streaking toward her shoulders. She gasped and fell to one knee. Mark dropped beside her. Zyra, I can't stand, she whispered. It's too much. A low humming noise filled the hall, rising from deep inside Zyra's body. The lights flickered again, brighter this time. The air around her grew warm, vibrating softly, like invisible waves were pushing against the walls. Mark recognized that sound. Energy surge, and a dangerous one. He wrapped his arm under Zyra's and tried to lift her up. We're going to the medical wing. Right now. She shook her head fiercely. No, not medical. Erevan energy cores react worse when scanned. The machines will overload, and then I will overload. Mark froze for a moment. So, where do we go? Zyra pointed weakly down the corridor. The stabilization chamber, the old one, near the engineering deck. Mark didn't even hesitate. He stood up, pulled Zyra to her feet, and placed her arm around his shoulders. She leaned heavily on him, trying to steady herself, but another burst of light ran across her skin. The floor trembled. More aliens ducked behind tables. Mark didn't blame them. As they moved toward the exit, Zyra's voice trembled. Mark, why did your food do this to me? You ate human spice, Mark said, and your species reacts to strong chemicals. I didn't know it would be this bad. Zyra winced as another pulse traveled through her arms. Mark, I feel like something is opening inside me, like a door I never knew existed. Mark said nothing, but inside his mind, worry twisted into fear. They stepped in the corridor. The door shut behind them with a heavy metallic thud. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then a violent shockwave blasted outward from Zyra, shaking the entire hallway. Mark was thrown against the wall, and Zyra collapsed to her knees again. Blue sparks floated around her like small electric fireflies. Zyra, Mark crawled toward her. Hold on. Her voice came out weak and trembling. Mark, I think the energy core inside me is waking up. Mark's eyes widened. Waking up? What does that mean? Zyra looked at him with glowing, frightened eyes. Erevan children are born with dormant power. It only awakens during adulthood, and only through special rituals, not through food. She swallowed hard. This is not natural. The corridor lights flickered again. Then a panel on the wall sparked. Mark realized the station itself was reacting to her. He grabbed her shoulders. Zyra, listen. You need to stay conscious. If you black out while your core is unstable. She cut him off with a sudden sharp cry as another wave hit her. She arched forward, gripping the floor with both hands. The blue glow spread across her entire body now, swirling like living light. Mark, it's happening again. Move back. I'm not leaving you, Mark shouted. But the energy burst out from her in a ring-shaped wave. It wasn't destructive, but powerful enough to rattle every pipe in the hallway. Mark shielded his face, gritting his teeth. When the wave faded, Zyra collapsed against him, breathing hard. Mark, I'm scared, she whispered. Mark held her steady. I know, but I'm here. We'll get you to that chamber. Zyra's fingers clutched his shirt. I mocked you. I laughed at your food, but now it is changing me. Mark didn't know what to say. The heat coming from her was rising again. He stood up, pulling her with him. Come on. The chamber isn't far. They moved forward slowly. Zyra's steps were shaky, unstable. Each breath she took released a faint pulse of blue mist into the air. It floated behind her like a glowing trail. Mark kept glancing around nervously. This level is empty right now. Good. Zyra nodded weakly. I don't want anyone to see me like this. Then she suddenly stopped walking. Mark, wait. Mark turned quickly. What is it? Zyra pressed her hand against the wall, and the metal beneath her palm began to melt slightly, bending inward like soft clay. Mark stepped back, eyes wide. Zyra, you're affecting solid metal. She slowly pulled her hand away, horrified. Mark, what is happening to me? Her voice trembled. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her breath shook in her chest. And before Mark could answer, the corridor lights shut down completely, throwing them into darkness. Only Zyra's glowing skin lit the hallway. Mark? She whispered. I'm here, Mark said softly. But in the dark, he felt the floor shift beneath him. A rumbling sound echoed through the station, and Zyra's voice came out in a frightened whisper. Mark, I think something inside me just woke up completely, and the station reacted to her like it sensed a new power. Something dangerous, something alive, something no one could predict. Mark, help me before it's too late. Darkness wrapped around them like a heavy blanket, the corridor humming softly as emergency power tried to catch up. Mark blinked, waiting for his eyes to adjust, but he quickly realized he didn't need to. Zyra's body was glowing bright enough to light the hallway. Her skin shimmered with waves of blue light, moving under the surface like liquid stars. Tiny sparks lifted from her arms and drifted upward, fading before they touched the ceiling. Zyra, your glow is getting stronger, Mark whispered, carefully pulling her close. She leaned her forehead on his shoulder, breathing hard. I can't control it. My core feels open. Too open. Like a door that refuses to close. Mark steadied her. We just need to reach that chamber. One step at a time. Zyra nodded, but her legs trembled badly. When she tried to step forward, another pulse shot through her, making her knees buckle. Mark caught her before she fell. Okay, slow, he said softly. Don't push yourself. But Zyra was shaking, her eyes glowing brighter every second. Mark, I feel something inside me moving, like energy swirling, and it wants to escape. Mark forced a calm voice. Then we'll trap it. The stabilization chamber was built for this exact kind of overflow. Zyra looked up at him with frightened eyes. Do you promise? Yes. I won't let anything happen to you. She held his shirt tight, trusting him completely, even though her own body felt like a storm ready to explode. They moved again, one step at a time, the corridor echoing with their breaths. The glowing mist from Zyra left a shimmering trail behind them, spreading into the air like drifting clouds. Suddenly, a loud metallic groan echoed throughout the station. Mark froze. Zyra tensed. What was that? Before Mark could answer, the wall on their right shifted. Pipes inside bent slightly, almost as if pushed by an invisible hand. Sparks flickered from the ceiling, followed by a low rumble beneath their feet. Zyra, the station is responding to you, Mark whispered. Your core must be generating a field strong enough to affect the metal. Zyra covered her mouth with trembling fingers. Mark, if this gets worse, the whole station might. Don't think about that, Mark interrupted quickly. Just keep walking. She nodded, but her fear was clear. As they reached the next junction, the lights sputtered back on for a moment, just a flicker. It wasn't enough to brighten anything, but it was enough to reveal something terrifying. A new crack had formed along the wall. A long, jagged crack shaped like a branching lightning bolt. Zyra stared at it in horror. "Mark, I didn't mean to. You didn't do it on purpose," Mark said, gripping her arm. "It's your core. It's unstable, not evil." Zyra's voice shook. "What if it destroys the chamber too?" Mark didn't answer. He didn't want to lie. They reached a heavy door at the end of the hallway. Zyra leaned against the wall, panting, while Mark opened the emergency override panel. "Stay still," he said. "I'll get the door open." Zyra pressed her back against the cold metal, trying to calm her breathing, but her glow only intensified. Her body pulsed with energy like a beating sun. The pressure inside her built higher and higher, and she closed her eyes tightly. I feel like I'm going to burst," she whispered. Mark worked faster, hands shaking. "Just hold on a little longer." A soft humming filled the hallway, the sound of Zyra's energy core spinning faster. Mark turned just in time to see something unbelievable. Zyra's feet lifted off the ground. Not far. Only an inch or two, but enough for Mark's heart to stop. "Zyra, you're floating." She gasped and grabbed onto the door handle to pull herself down. "I can't stop it. The energy is pushing me up." The hallway floor vibrated as another shockwave rippled outward from her. Mark finally forced the door open with a heavy metallic click. A narrow passage stretched ahead, dim and untouched for years. "Zyra, come on," he called. But Zyra didn't move. She was staring down at her hands, horrified. Blue lightning crackled between her fingers, soft at first, then stronger. "Mark," she whispered. "It's getting worse. I can feel it growing every second." Mark grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not going to collapse here. You're not dying today. I'm taking you to that chamber, no matter what happens." Her lips trembled. She nodded. He pulled her carefully through the doorway. Inside the passage, the lights were dead. Only Zyra's glowing body gave any illumination. The air was thick and warm, heavy with the scent of old machinery. As they walked, Zyra's voice broke softly. "Mark, why did your food do this? Why would something so small unlock a power this large?" Mark shook his head. "I don't know, but we'll survive it." Suddenly, Zyra stopped again. "Mark," she whispered. Mark turned slowly. Her entire body was glowing bright enough to light the whole corridor, brighter than before, almost blinding. "Mark, something just shifted inside me." Her voice shook. "It feels like something opened even deeper." Mark stepped closer, worried. "What do you mean?" Zyra placed her palm against her chest. "It feels like a second core just woke up." Mark's eyes widened. "A second one?" "Zyra, your species only has one." Zyra shook her head slowly. "Not anymore." The corridor vibrated with a deep, humming resonance. Zyra's glow intensified until her outline blurred. Mark reached forward, fear rising in his chest. "Zyra, stay with me, stay awake." Zyra breathed out one trembling sentence. "Mark, I don't think this reaction is stopping." Then her knees gave out. Her body dropped toward the floor, and the entire passage exploded with blinding blue light. The explosion of blue light swallowed the entire passage. For a moment, Mark couldn't see anything, only brightness, like a star had been born right in front of him. The air vibrated, the metal around them groaned, and the floor shook as if something powerful had awakened below their feet. Then, slowly, the light faded. Mark blinked hard, tried to bring the world back into focus. His ears rang. His heartbeat pounded in his chest like a drum. He felt dust falling from the ceiling. But all he cared about was Zyra. He looked frantically through the dim blue mist floating in the air. "Zyra? Zyra, answer me." A soft sound came from ahead, like someone breathing, weak but alive. Mark ran toward it, stumbling over cracked tiles. His boots splashed through shallow puddles of glowing blue liquid, energy residue leaking like melted light. He found Zyra lying on her side, eyes half open, body still glowing but softer now. She looked exhausted, drained, and fragile. Mark dropped to his knees beside her. "Zyra, can you hear me?" Her lips trembled before any sound came out. "Mark, I'm here." Relief hit him so hard he almost collapsed too. But the danger wasn't over. Her skin flickered, the glow rising and falling like a dying flame. Mark gently lifted her head onto his lap. You scared me. Don't do that again. Even in her weakened state, Zyra managed a tiny smile. Oh, try not to explode next time. Mark let out a shaky laugh. Please don't. But the moment didn't last. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the far end of the passage, like something waking up inside the walls. The ground beneath them vibrated again. The pipes overhead rattled violently. Zyra's eyes widened. Mark, something is moving. Mark turned toward the shadows ahead. The air shimmered, warping, bending like something invisible was pushing the space around it. Your energy blast must have triggered something, Mark whispered. Zyra tried to sit up, but her arms were shaking too much. Mark, you need to get away. I can't protect you, not like this. Mark shook his head. Not happening. We're doing this together. She grabbed his wrist weakly. Mark, listen to me. I felt something when the light exploded. Something inside the station reacted to me, like it recognized me. Recognized you? How? Zyra stared into the distance, terrified. Like the station saw my core, and answered back. Before Mark could respond, the shaking intensified. The wall ahead cracked open. A thin, glowing blue line formed from top to bottom like a scar splitting metal skin. The crack widened slowly, painfully, groaning deeper with every inch. Blue particles drifted out like dust made of light. The station was reacting. Alive. Mark held Zyra closer. What did you activate? Zyra's voice shook. I don't know, but Mark, something in these walls has the same energy as my core. I can feel it. Mark stared at her. You mean, there's Aravan technology in this station? No, she whispered. Older. Much older. The wall finally broke open with a loud metallic tear. Behind it was a dark chamber, ancient, empty, and built with unfamiliar patterns glowing faintly blue, pulsing in rhythm with Zyra's light. Mark felt a chill crawl up his spine. Zyra, this wasn't in the station blueprints. Zyra forced herself to sit up, leaning heavily on his arm. This room, I could sense it. Something inside is calling to me. Mark shook his head. No, you can't go inside. You're too weak. Zyra's eyes glowed brighter for a moment. Mark, this room might be the only thing that stabilizes me. My core reacts to this place like it belongs here. Mark hesitated. She might be right. Her body flickered again, the glow unstable. She didn't have much time. He helped her to her feet. She leaned against him, barely standing. Together, they stepped into the ancient chamber. The moment Zyra crossed the threshold, the symbols on the walls lit up, one by one, like stars awakening after a long sleep. A deep hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the floor. Zyra's breath caught in her throat. Mark, this place, it's reading me. The walls shifted, forming patterns that matched her energy waves. Mark held her tighter. Is it dangerous? I don't think so, she whispered. It feels like it's trying to help me. Then the room reacted again. A circle in the center of the floor opened with a soft metallic whisper, revealing a glowing platform of pure blue light. Zyra's eyes widened. Mark, it's a core stabilizer. A real one. But this design, my people don't make anything like this. Mark frowned. Then who built it? Zyra stepped toward the platform, trembling. Someone who understood power like ours. Maybe before we even existed. Mark felt his stomach twist with dread. Zyra, get back. This might be a trap. She shook her head weakly. No, I can feel it. This is the only way to stop what's happening to me. The ground shook again, stronger this time. Pipes burst in the hallway behind them. Something, somewhere in the station, was waking up faster. Zyra stepped onto the platform. The platform responded instantly. Light wrapped around her body like flowing ribbons. Her feet left the floor again. She floated upward slowly, peacefully this time, eyes closing as the ancient machine scanned her core. Mark stood frozen, heart racing. Zyra, are you okay? For the first time since the reaction began, Zyra looked calm. Her voice was soft. Mark, I feel it. The chamber, is stabilizing me. But her calm expression slowly shifted. Her eyes opened slightly, and fear slipped back in. Mark? Something else is in here. I can feel it. Mark took a step back. Something else? Where? Zyra's eyes turned toward the dark corner of the chamber, glowing brighter, terrified. Mark, she whispered. There's another energy core in this room. The shadows shifted. Something moved, and the entire chamber trembled as if something ancient and alive had finally awakened. The air in the chamber grew heavier, thicker, almost difficult to breathe. Mark stood frozen as Zyra hovered gently above the glowing platform, her body wrapped in swirling blue ribbons of light. The walls hummed, responding to her presence like an ancient machine adjusting to a long-lost frequency. But all of that faded in Mark's mind when he heard the sound again. A low, dragging, whispering vibration coming from the far corner of the chamber, like metal scraping against metal, or something waking from a very, very long sleep. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Zyra, he whispered, where is it? Zyra didn't turn her head. She couldn't. Her body was suspended, locked inside the stabilizer's light. But her eyes, bright and terrified, shifted toward the deepest shadow in the room. There, she whispered. Behind the wall. No, inside the wall. Mark squinted. The corner looked completely normal. Dark, still, silent. But then, the darkness moved. Not like a shadow shifting. Not like dust falling. More like breathing. A soft pulse, almost identical to Zyra's glow, spread across the wall. It looked like veins of blue light crawling outward, stretching toward the center of the chamber. Mark stumbled back. What is that? Zyra shook her head weakly. It feels like another core, another presence, but different from me. Older, stronger. It's been waiting, reacting to me, calling me. Mark's stomach tightened. Why would it call you? I don't know, Zyra whispered, but it feels like it knows what I am. The glowing veins suddenly burst forward. The entire wall rippled like liquid metal. Mark backed up until he hit another wall. Zyra, this thing, whatever it is, it's waking up because of you. Zyra winced as the stabilizing light tightened around her, analyzing her energy at a faster pace. Mark, the platform is accelerating. It's because of that presence. It's responding to it. The floor began to vibrate in slow, heavy pulses. 1, 2, 3, each pulse deeper than the last, shaking the chamber with growing power. Mark looked around desperately for anything at all, that could help him understand what was happening. But the ancient symbols on the walls only glowed brighter, and the hum grew louder. A crack formed in the center of the shadowed wall. A thin, glowing blue line. Mark's heart stopped. Zyra, it's opening something. Zyra's voice trembled. Mark, I think this chamber wasn't just made to stabilize energy cores. The crack widened. Something moved behind it, pushing against the metal as if trying to break free. Zyra's words came out barely above a whisper. I think it was made to protect against them. Mark's eyes widened. Protect? Against what? The crack split open completely with a sharp metallic scream. A massive circular door inside the wall slowly rotated, grinding and shedding dust, revealing a hollow chamber beyond it. Blue light spilled out, faint at first, then stronger, then blinding. Mark shielded his eyes. Zyra, are you seeing this? Zyra's eyes were wide with fear. Mark, something ancient was locked away. Something with the same energy as me, but darker. The light dimmed just enough for Mark to see inside. At the center of the newly revealed chamber was a floating orb. Black at its core, surrounded by swirling blue patterns that matched Zyra's energy perfectly. But its presence felt wrong. Heavy, cold, hungry. Mark felt a chill crawl down his spine. What is that thing? Zyra's voice cracked. An Aravan core fragment, but corrupted, pure energy waiting to attach to something living. Mark swallowed hard. Attach? To what? Zyra's glow flickered weakly. The orb pulsed as if answering his question, and the pulse made Zyra arch in pain. Mark, she cried out. It's pulling my energy, trying to link with me. No. Mark ran toward the stabilizer platform, reaching for her. Fight it, Zyra. Don't let it connect. The orb pulsed again, harder this time. The wind inside the chamber whipped into a cyclone, swirling dust, light, and heat in chaotic spirals. The chamber walls groaned as if struggling to contain the force. Zyra screamed as the stabilizer platform shook. Mark, I can't stop it. It's too strong. Mark grabbed her hand, even though the energy burned against his skin. I won't let it take you. The orb accelerated, blue lines shooting outward from it like tendrils seeking a host. One tendril touched Zyra's arm. She convulsed violently, gasping as the corruption surged inside her. Zyra, Mark shouted, pulling her down with all his strength. But Zyra's eyes rolled back, her body trembling uncontrollably. Mark, she whispered weakly. It's inside my core, trying to take over. Mark held her close, desperate. Stay with me. Don't let it win. But the orb pulsed again, this time exploding outward in a shockwave that threw Mark to the floor. Zyra's scream echoed through the chamber. The walls blazed with blue light, and the corrupted core latched onto her energy completely, binding itself to her like a parasite. The last thing Mark saw as he tried to stand was Zyra's glowing silhouette, twisting, struggling, as something ancient and unknown tried to merge with her. And her voice broke into a whisper filled with terror. Mark, it's becoming part of me. Mark forced himself up, every muscle shaking, his ears still ringing from the blast. Dust floated in the air, glowing blue from the light spilling out of Zyra's body. The chamber felt colder now, colder than any part of the station he'd ever been in. A cold that wasn't natural, a cold that felt alive. Zyra hung suspended above the stabilizer platform, her body rigid, her arms stretched outward like invisible ropes were pulling her apart. The corrupted core's tendrils wrapped around her like thin threads of blue lightning, digging into her skin without breaking it. Mark could barely breathe. Zyra, he shouted, stumbling toward her. Her head jerked slightly, her eyes opening halfway. One eye glowed its normal bright blue, the other flickered with a darker, deeper shade, almost black, almost hollow. Mark, her voice echoed strangely, like two voices speaking at once. Help! Mark froze when he heard the second voice layered under hers, cold, ancient, emotionless. I'm here, he said quickly. Stay with me, Zyra. Don't let it control you. Zyra trembled violently. I'm trying, it's inside my core, pushing, pulling. Her fingers twisted as if resisting something controlling her nerves. The corrupted tendrils tightened, glowing brighter, forcing her body higher into the air. Mark ran forward and slammed into an invisible barrier. He hit the ground hard. What? A transparent field surrounded the stabilizer platform. It rippled with blue and black energy, reacting whenever he touched it. Zyra saw him struggling. Mark, don't, the field will hurt you. Mark gritted his teeth. I don't care. I'm not leaving you. He got back up and slammed his palms against the barrier. Blue sparks lashed out, burning his hands, but he didn't pull away. Inside the barrier, Zyra screamed as another pulse slammed through her. The corrupted core pulsed in answer, deep and rhythmic like a heartbeat that didn't belong in any living thing. Why is it doing this? Mark shouted. Zyra gasped between pain breaths. It wants to host my species, our energy compatible with ancient tech. Mark's eyes widened. It's trying to use you. Zyra nodded weakly. Her face twisted as another wave hit her. It's copying my energy, rewriting it. The corrupted tendrils tightened around her chest and arms. Her glow flickered wildly, sometimes bright blue, sometimes dark like a cracked star. Mark slammed his fists against the barrier again. No, you're not taking her. The floor shook violently, knocking Mark off balance. The chamber walls lit up like lightning storms trapped inside metal. Zyra jerked violently as the corrupted core dragged more energy from her. Her back arched, her fingers stiffened, and her voice cracked in a scream that Mark had never heard from her before. Zyra, he yelled, pressing against the barrier. Her head dropped forward. Her breathing turned shallow. Mark, she whispered. I'm losing. No, Mark shouted. Fight it. You're stronger than this thing. Do you hear me? Zyra's eyes opened again. The black corruption flickered inside them, fighting the blue. I can't hold it much longer. Mark looked around desperately. The stabilizer platform, the ancient symbols, the chamber. Everything reacted to her energy, but nothing was meant for humans to control. Then, a memory hit him. Zyra's reaction to human spices. Her body reacting differently than expected. Her energy core unlocking because of something small, something simple. Zyra, Mark whispered, an idea forming in his mind. You reacted to human food differently. What if your core reacts to human energy the same way? Zyra blinked weakly. Human energy? Mark pressed his burned hands harder against the barrier. When you touched me earlier, your reaction changed. You steadied for a moment. Maybe human bioenergy doesn't mix with the corrupted core. Maybe it confuses it. She stared at him, barely conscious. Mark, humans are too weak to interact with cores. Mark gave a shaky laugh. Humans survive everything. We adapt. We climb. We fight. That's our thing. Zyra's body twitched. What are you saying? Mark took a deep breath. I'm saying I'm not letting you fight alone. He placed both palms flat against the barrier, ignoring the pain spreading through his arms. The moment this field weakens, even for a second, you reach for me. Understand? Reach. For me. Zyra's breathing hitched. Mark, it could kill you. Or it could save you, he whispered. We won't know unless we try. Before she could respond, the corrupted core pulsed again. The strongest pulse yet. A shock wave blasted outward. The chamber walls cracked. The floor split. The barrier flickered just for a heartbeat. Zyra's body jerked violently as the corrupted core tried to fuse deeper into her. Mark saw her falling forward, her energy collapsing in on itself. Now, Zyra, take my hand. She reached out with one hand, shaking, barely able to move. Mark pushed his arm through the half-flickering barrier, ignoring the burning pain shooting through his nerves. Their fingers touched. A blinding surge of energy exploded between them. Zyra screamed. Mark cried out. The corrupted core reacted violently, thrashing inside the chamber, its tendrils recoiling and striking the walls. Energy stormed through Zyra's body, into Mark, back into Zyra, back into the core, creating a wild loop of unstable power. The room howled with the sound of shifting metal and collapsing technology. Zyra's voice came out broken. Mark, it's weakening. The core is losing control. Mark held her hand tighter. Then keep going. Don't let go. The corrupted orb shattered its containment. Blue-black sparks raining through the air, forming swirling patterns like something dying and fighting at the same time. Zyra's body shook violently, but her blue glow grew stronger, brighter, almost fighting the darkness inside her. Mark, she gasped. Your energy, it's interfering with the core. Mark shouted back over the storm. Then hold on to me. Keep pulling. Zyra squeezed his hand with the last of her strength. The corrupted core pulsed one final time. A pulse filled with rage, confusion, and fear. Then the orb collapsed inward, imploding silently and vanishing. The stabilizer platform dimmed. Zyra's glow faded, and she fell forward, straight into Mark's arms. Unconscious, but alive, while the ancient chamber fell silent around them, as if holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. Silence filled the ancient chamber, heavy and unnatural, as if the entire station had stopped breathing. Dust slowly settled through the air, drifting like tiny stars in the fading blue glow. Mark held Zyra tightly, his hands trembling from the energy that had burned through him moments ago. His chest rose and fell in fast, uneven breaths. He looked down at Zyra. Her body was limp, her head resting against his shoulder. The glowing veins that had raced across her skin were dim now, flickering like the last embers of a dying fire. She was alive. He could feel her shallow breathing, but she was far from safe. Zyra, he whispered, lifting her gently. Come on, open your eyes. Nothing. just the soft rise and fall of her chest. Mark ignored the burning pain in his own arms as he pushed himself to his feet, still cradling her. The stabilizer platform beneath them crackled weakly, sparks skipping across its surface. It looked damaged, barely functional now. Mark took a shaky step toward the exit. Then he froze. Something about the chamber felt wrong. Not like before, when the corrupted core was alive and hungry, but different, emptier, quieter, too quiet. Zyra's voice echoed in his mind. The chamber recognizes me. Another core is in here. It's calling to me. Mark tightened his hold on her. He didn't know what kind of ancient technology they had awakened, but it wasn't gone. It was waiting. As he took another step, a soft sound broke the silence. A whisper, not from Zyra, not from him, from the walls. Mark turned, eyes wide. The glowing symbols, those ancient shapes carved deep into the metal, were shifting. Not fading, shifting, sliding along the surface like pieces of a puzzle, rearranging themselves. What now? He muttered, stepping back. The symbols gathered toward the space where the corrupted core had been. The wall pulsed once, softly, before an image formed. Not a picture, not writing, but a projection, a hologram. Dim at first, then clearer as the line stabilized. Mark stared in confusion. It showed a figure, tall, humanoid, but not Aravan. Not human either. Its body shimmered with pure energy, flowing and twisting like a living flame. The figure raised one hand, and the projection zoomed closer. Mark whispered, "What are you?" The figure touched its own chest, and the projection revealed something horrifying. Inside its torso was a core, a glowing blue-white core, almost identical to Zyra's. And directly beside it was a second core, black, twisted, corrupted. Mark felt his blood turn cold. An ancient being containing two cores, one pure, one corrupted. Zyra wasn't the first. She wasn't the only one. The hologram flickered, then showed the black core splitting away, like a parasite separating from its host. The corrupted core floated upward, breaking free, drifting. Then the image jumped. The corrupted core drifted through space until it approached something familiar. The outline of a space station. Not Zyra's station, but one built in the same design. The same architecture. The same metal curves. And then the projection shifted again to show the corrupted core inside the walls, waiting, sleeping. Mark's hand shook. "It wasn't made here," he whispered. "It was trapped here." The projection zoomed closer on the corrupted core. The image flashed. Containment breached. Host required. Host found. The projection pointed directly at Zyra. Mark's throat tightened. No. So the corrupted core hadn't chosen Zyra randomly. It had recognized her species. It had been waiting for an Aravan. Waiting for centuries. Mark looked at the unconscious girl in his arms. "You were the key," he whispered. "The chamber didn't call to you. The parasite did." Zyra stirred faintly, her voice barely audible. Mark, he knelt quickly, holding her carefully. Zyra, listen. That thing wasn't just reacting to you. It wanted you. It needed you." Her eyes fluttered open a little, still unfocused. "I felt something pulling, something ancient." "It wasn't a machine, Zyra," Mark said softly. "It was alive. A parasite. And it's been waiting for someone like you." She winced, clutching her chest weakly. "I can feel something missing, something torn out, like a piece of me was almost taken." Mark brushed dust from her cheek. "You fought it. You won. But—" He swallowed. Zyra's fingers twitched. "But what?" Mark looked around the chamber. The hologram flickered again, and new symbols formed beneath it. Fragment removed. Host rejected. Next core activating. Mark felt his heart stop. "There's another one," he whispered. "Another corrupted core. Maybe more." Zyra's breath caught. "Mark, the station, it's not safe." As if responding to her words, a deep rumble shook the structure overhead. Dust fell from the ceiling. Beyond the chamber, alarms began to blare, system warnings echoing through the corridors. Something massive was activating. Something deeper in the station. Something the ancient chamber had kept hidden for centuries. Zyra clung to Mark weakly. Mark, the awakening isn't over. Mark lifted her carefully into his arms, adrenaline pushing him forward. No more ancient tech. No more cores. We're getting out of here. But when he turned toward the exit, the hallway lights flickered, and a long, dark shadow stretched across the floor. Mark froze. Zyra whispered, terror rising in her voice. Mark, something else woke up,